Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version podcast is based on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Bonnie Dickson. Bonnie is the artist behind the camera. She has been looking at the world through a lens for most of her life. As a little kid, she would follow her uncle around while he captured images of the family, and she would ask him endless questions about his camera. Years later, Bonnie has led a life of ups, downs, twists, and turns. She is here to share some of her journey and also talk about her career in empowering entrepreneurs and small business owners to have a strong digital visual first impression in the world. She has a strong background in professional customized photography and image polishing, and she provides business owners with a friendly, supportive, and empowering photographic experience. I am excited to hear all this goodness today. Welcome, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you. I always appreciate women who understand what I am doing here on this podcast and being willing to come on and share some of their past journeys in order to inspire other men and women. You know, all types of people listen to this podcast, and who are dealing with some stuff, and sometimes they need some inspiring things to kind of help them through that. So before we jump in, I'd like to know, or to let our listeners know, where are you from?
Sure. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
I love it. Well, we are really far away from each other because I'm all the way in South Florida.
Yeah, enjoy the beaches and the warm weather. It's starting to get cool here, but thank goodness for the internet and brings us close together.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I would love to just kind of jump in and ask the first question on my list, which is, what story changed your entire life? And what did you learn from that story?
That's a fantastic question and great way to just deep dive right in. The story that changed my entire life is actually a very personal health related one. I had a hysterectomy in 2016, and it led to me learning so much about myself, my strength, my perseverance, and it, funnily enough, led me to decide to become a photographer full time and help business owners. And you got to wonder, well, how does a hysterectomy get to that? But it was quite a journey.
No kidding. How did that even correlate at all?
Okay. So basically, I talk openly and quite often about my personal health experience with the hysterectomy. I had severe endometriosis, and it's something that a lot of women silently suffer with. They don't realize that their monthly cycle or period shouldn't be as painful as it is and shouldn't be as debilitating as it can be. And oftentimes, endometriosis gets misdiagnosed as other things by the medical industry. And for me, I was misdiagnosed for over 8 years. And the endometriosis got to a point where I was losing out on life experiences. I was missing too many days from work, missing too much time from relationships with my now ex-husband, from family and so on, and just missing out on life. And it got to a point where I said to the doctors, this amount of daily pain is nothing somebody should live with. And they said, well, you're in your 30s, we don't want to do a hysterectomy. You're going to want to have a child someday. And I said, well, no, because I can barely take care of myself. I can barely get out of bed in the morning, never mind look after another human and take care of them. And so I said, please do whatever you need to stop this incredible amount of pain. And they finally agreed, and they did the hysterectomy. And I will never forget when I woke up from that surgery, the surgeon was standing right over me because she wanted to be the first to tell me that I was right, that there was so much endometriosis. It had not only devoured my uterus, shut down my ovaries, it was also attached to my bowels and my stomach.
Wow.
Every time I ate a meal, every time I went to the washroom, I was in debilitating pain.
Wow.
She said, I can't begin to imagine how much pain you were in every day because of how much endometriosis I had. And that was the first moment where, after begging the medical industry for 8 years to not just prescribe me painkillers, but to really look at what was happening, that I realized, okay, you gotta stand up for yourself. You can't just be a victim in life and poor me and whatnot. You have to use your voice or whatever tools you have to be seen and to be heard. And from all of my previous experience with photography and following my uncle, as you were saying, and always having cameras around, and I have a career in visual effects where I worked as an artist and honed my photography skills. I took those experiences from that medical industry and having that hysterectomy, and I thought, how can I help other people be seen? I also have another little personal story in there where, when it comes to being seen, I have a twin sister, and I love her so much. Growing up, we were the best of friends, worst of enemies, and we're such good friends now. And one of the troubles or struggles about being a twin is trying to stand out and be seen as just you, not one of the girls or one of the twins, because everybody's always excited about twins, and they should be, because we're a lot of fun. But it was, how do I stand out as just Bonnie and not one of the twins? And so learning that, partnered with how to use my voice and how to stand out and be heard from the medical system, I combined all of that and thought, let's tell business owners stories and help them be seen.
I love that. Wow. How many years after all of this did this start to come to fruition?
4 years after the surgery, I've been doing this version of photography, which I call business visibility photography, for the last 2 years. And I took those 4 years from the surgery to physically and mentally heal.
Yeah.
My body had been through so much trauma for almost a decade, so much inflammation. I have permanent arthritis in my low back, which causes sometimes problems when moving and doing things. And I found the sport of rock climbing to help me get stronger, lose weight, reduce the inflammation in my body, and just did the healing journeys I needed personally, because unfortunately, as a result of fighting the medical system and feeling in so much pain for so many years, it put too much weight on my marriage, and that ended. And so I had to also heal a broken heart and basically restart my life with this newfound opportunity to be healthy, body and mind, and figure out, okay, well, what do I want to do now? And how can I make the best and the most of this opportunity now that I am healthier and not living in such an immense daily level of pain? And that's what I decided I wanted to do, was help business owners be seen, so that the dreams they work so hard to create through their own businesses are seen and experienced, and they don't just fall on deaf ears, because everybody has something special about them, and they work so hard on their business, they deserve to be seen.
Fantastic. When did the you mentioned earlier ex-husband, did that happen during all of this? When did that scenario happen in your life?
Yeah, so I believe that for me, my life, I look at it as sort of like a novel, or a story where you have characters who are reoccurring through your whole life, like my twin sister. She's always in and out of chapters. And then I believe that there's people who come into your life for a specific purpose, and they have a chapter and it's full of great things or challenging things, but they're necessary. And my ex-husband was that. He came into my life. We were together for 11 years and married for 5 of those. And he came into my life right when the endometriosis started. And he left 6 months after my surgery. So just as I became healthy, he ran out of patience, found another person, did his own choices, and we went our separate ways. But while I was experiencing all of that immense amount of pain for almost a decade, he was the most patient and kind and understanding and supportive person that I could have wished for, because what people don't understand with endometriosis, it's not like a cut that you can see or a wound, it's completely internal. So as somebody who's experiencing all that pain, you need to have somebody who's patient and supportive to try to guess or understand, because they can't possibly see how much pain you're in. And so I am thankful to have had him in my life during that. I am, sad that it ended the way that it did, and that, he couldn't now enjoy the healthy version of me physically and mentally. But it was a really big learning experience.
I love that you are perceiving it that way. I remember having a conversation on another podcast with a woman who lost her husband, and she had finally found the love of her life. It was like, I think it was her second marriage. And 6 months after they were married, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
Like stage 4. And absolutely devastating. Like, I can't even imagine. But she actually views it very similar to the way that you're viewing it. She believes that she was put in his life at that time because of that situation, to be able to take care of him during that, and to kind of allow him to pass over whatever she believes, or you want to believe. And that's just such a beautiful way of looking at so many different parts of our life as people come and go, in and out.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel for her, because, nobody plans for a situation like that. But it is really personally empowering to be able to look at it as a learning experience.
Yeah.
I think that it's very easy as humans to say, well, why me? Why is he sick? Why am I going to lose the love of my life? That sort of thing. So good for her for instead taking it as, okay, this is an experience. This is just going to make me more of who I am. And this is what I'm going to do to help him. And that's the direction I decided to take from the divorce, because I certainly didn't want a divorce. And because I was still physically healing from the surgery, it took a solid year before I was completely well. But I would be on my way to work and walking and be so stressed from the divorce process and selling the house and the things that were going on. I would literally stop and be sick on the sidewalk.
Wow.
And I got to a point where I thought, okay, I'm trying to heal my body. Why am I allowing this stress and this victim mindset of like, why is this happening to me, take control? And I felt like I was sort of ejected from my life. Like I didn't have control on my life. And I was out in outer space looking down saying, okay, well, now what, Bonnie? What are you going to do? And I decided, no, I'm not going to be the victim. It's not going to be poor me. He was great while he chose to be in my life. And if he doesn't want to be, no problem. I'll keep going. I took control back of my life, moved on. And I'm so thankful for the things I learned and experienced while with him. And I'm so thankful that I can just be the best version of me now.
Yeah.
And it just made me who I am.
Yeah. I would love for you to talk a little bit about some of the steps that you took. A lot of when there's the saying, when it rains, it pours. And sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes it feels like just when you're starting to get into the new groove or the new light or whatever it is, then something else happens, and then something else happens. And it can be real easy, as you're already talking about, the victim mindset, to fall into that and just this whole woe is me thing. And I have totally been guilty of it. But I want to ask, just from your personal experience, and for those that are listening live right now who are resonating with what you're saying, maybe not exactly, but they're like, yeah, just when I'm starting, then boom, something else happens. And they just want to fall over and just like, oh, I just can't do this anymore. What did you do? What did you do? Who did you reach out to? Were you reading books? Were you watching stuff? Did you get a therapist? Did you talk to your mom? Did you go work out? What were the couple of things that you did to I know that you were just getting over surgery, but what were some of the things that you did not commit suicide?
Yes. Yeah. It's such a great question, because you are 100% right. When it rains, it pours. So to give a little bit more backstory, and then I'll tell you how I got through it. In January, so in 2016, my life literally changed on every level. And this will sound a little dramatic, but bear with me. So I had my hysterectomy in January of 2016. My husband and the infidelity happened in April. We were separated. I sold our family home by the summer. We were divorced by the fall. My grandfather passed away in the fall of cancer. And then my beautiful little niece was born that December. And the following January, one day before the 1-year anniversary of my surgery, I got the keys to my new condo. And I was ready to start my new life in the downtown. I had, tidied up everything with the ex-husband. And then on the day of my surgery anniversary, I was let go from my career job.
Oh, wow.
Because the business was purchased by another person and they let go of a number of us.
Wow.
So I now had a mortgage. I now had a healthy state where I needed to get fit, but I wasn't in daily pain. I have no kids, I have no husband, and I have no job. And I thought, well, that was a lot of changes all in 1 year.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, I was very lucky in that my previous employer provided me with a 6-month severance package. And I turned to Instagram and was looking around at these beautiful travel pictures and things, and just sitting on my couch in my condo going, okay, I like my little slice of pie in the sky here, but what am I going to do? And I need to find a job. And anyways, I saw this picture of Mount Cook, which is the tallest mountain in New Zealand. And it had this beautiful little boardwalk that went up to it and these fields on the side. And something said to me, Bonnie, you need to stand there yourself.
Wow.
And 2 days later, I bought a plane ticket for New Zealand and went down to New Zealand and had an incredible experience where I just hiked and met people and saw all this beautiful untouched land, got to hike on a glacier, and just personally refueled myself, while also getting to experience all of these physical experiences, such as hiking, that I wasn't able to do before my hysterectomy.
Yeah.
And I came back, and it was around April of 2017. It had been a few months, and I went to a women's business event, and there was a life coach there that says, oh, have a complimentary 30-minute call with me. I said, okay, I'll drop my number in there. And anyways, we got in touch. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever done, because she helped me understand I was already on the path of not wanting to be the victim. And by having somebody who wasn't my mom or wasn't my sister or wasn't a really close friend who already knew my whole life story to talk to, but somebody who could see it removed and objectively, and who could give me input on a different point of view. She actually just helped me see things that I didn't want to see, but I already kind of knew.
Yeah.
She would just tell them back to me in a different way. That level of support was incredible. And so I think that when for anyone who might be experiencing a major life change, whether it is a divorce or a career change or maybe a new baby in the family or whatever, we go through so many different experiences in our lives. I think that it is very useful to reach out to maybe a therapist or to a life coach, somebody who can just provide a different perspective or hear you differently than your friends and family would.
Totally makes sense. Definitely. I love that you took, being a life coach myself, the 30-minute free consult. I love that you're giving that little tidbit there for my sake. But also, yes, like getting somebody else's input that isn't your mom or your grandma or your sister does help to be able to see your situation through somebody else's eyes, a different perspective.
Yes. And it's something that I also apply to what I do with my photography with business owners, because as a business owner, you're used to seeing your space every day. And so by bringing in a photographer who gets to see it brand new, the way your brand new clients would, it's fresh eyes and fresh perspective. Yeah. So regardless of whatever you're doing in your life, whether you're a business owner needing photography or you're somebody overcoming like a traumatic experience, it's always helpful to have fresh eyes.
Totally agree with you.
And there's so many interesting things that, I kind of still giggle to myself. How does a hysterectomy make me a business visibility photographer? But there's all these little nuggets and things that I've learned along the way that are so applicable and helpful to business owners.
Yeah. What do you think has been the number one lesson that you've learned about life?
That I know for sure is communication.
Tell us more.
So I like to say I've yet to meet a mind reader. And I definitely learned whether when I was employed in the visual effects industry and working as a digital artist, whether it was communicating with my family or people in my life, anyone you talk to, even at the grocery store, if you're talking to the checkout clerk or whatnot, you have to communicate with people because nobody knows what you're thinking. And humans, we like to make assumptions and we like to think, oh, well, they're just doing this, or, oh, I'm going to do that because they're standing this particular way. So their body language is telling me that that's what they want. But if you actually ask a question and you actually listen and you communicate clearly what you want and learn what they want, it goes such a long way. And there are different levels of communication, different types of communication. It can be verbal, it can be visual, it can be body language. And all of those things are so very important.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of reminded me of this one saying. I don't remember who I heard say it, but it's something to the effect of how much time we spend thinking about what we think other people are thinking about us.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even what they're thinking. It's what we think they're thinking.
Yeah.
And it's what you're saying. It's communication. We're not mind readers. So we have no business even spending any time in that space. And anything that is needing to be discussed should be, used with our ability to be able to speak words,
Yes, exactly. I mean, a simple thing would be, if you just got home from work and then your husband or spouse walks in the door and you want them to put their coat away and come give you a hug, but they put their coat away and, go do something else, then you say, hey, hon, come give me a hug. because they don't know, they didn't read your mind. It's simple things like that.
Yeah.
Communicating to your boss or staff, hey, we have this big meeting coming up. Nobody has told me what I need to do to prepare for it. Can you please assign me the task or give me the details? Because you can't just assume that things will happen. They can't just assume that you know what you need to do, whether you've done it before or not. But if you ask clearly, then you can get the information you need.
Exactly. Were there any limiting beliefs that you had to like work on when you pivoted from like working corporate to now being a visibility?
Business visibility photographer.
Yeah. Was there some limiting beliefs that you kind of flushed through to do that?
Absolutely. Yes. I think that when you make that transition from employee to business owner, you have to believe in yourself. And I struggled my whole life with not feeling like I was enough. And I don't know if that comes from being a twin. And, my parents didn't even know they were having twins. I was a surprise. So I was never expected. I was always just kind of here. And so throughout my life, I've always struggled with this. Well, why aren't I enough? Why aren't I enough for the ex-husband that he had to find someone else? Why aren't I enough in this business role or that? And so I needed to believe in myself and my skill set, my artistry as a photography, but also my background with visual strategy and everything that I learned in the advertising and film world so that I could help educate business owners. And if I didn't believe in me, they're not going to believe in me. So I had to spend time working on realizing that I am enough and I do matter and I do know what I'm talking about. And these are the reasons why I'm here to help.
Yeah. You talked about being good enough. At what point do you think a person is good enough?
That's a tough question. I think that I think that everybody will have their own level of determining what's good enough for them. But for me, I think this might sound really silly, but I think it was when I was able to look in the mirror and tell myself I am enough without crying.
I love that.
And it took a lot of tries. And I have to say the relationship I'm in now, he's very supportive. And when I first met him, he said, Bonnie, there's this glow about you. He's like, you come in a room, it changes the room. And he's like, but I don't think you see it. Yeah. And he said, you need to stand in front of a mirror and, tell yourself you're awesome. And I stood in front of the mirror and I told myself I'm enough. And I cried.
Yes.
And I did it again. And I cried. And then I couldn't even look in the mirror. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then I went back and I did it again and again and again because repetition is key. And eventually I believed myself and I looked in the mirror and I said, Bonnie, you are enough. And I didn't cry.
I love it. What a great exercise. That brings me back to when I left my ex. He was very abusive. And I remember reading about or something, this exercise that you're talking about. And for me, it was the word, I love you. So like looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself that you love you. And I remember when I first started doing this, I couldn't even say the words. Like even just looking in the mirror and thinking about saying the words would bring me to tears. And that exercise and being diligent in making sure that I was doing that often, and then also expanding it to other I am powerful statements, so much made a difference. Yes. In the powerful person that I am. I love that you are giving that little nugget of information to those that are watching, for sure.
And you know what? Kudos to you as well, because it is a hard exercise to do. I mean,
Yes.
how much time do we spend in front of a mirror on a daily basis, anyways? Washing our face, brushing our teeth, applying makeup, doing our hair, whatever it might be. But we never just stand and look at ourselves to
Yeah.
tell ourselves something.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the first time I tried, I couldn't say the words either. I couldn't say I am enough. Just saying them in my head, just looking myself in the eye
Yeah.
was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't be uncomfortable. We should love ourselves,
Yeah.
be able to know we are enough, and be able to look ourselves in the eye. And for anybody who's watching this, go do this, because it will change how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. A funny story. I don't know if my fiance is watching right now, but him and I have been together for about 5 years now. And, I met him not obviously, but I met him well into my self-development, personal growth journey that I'm still on. And I still do this to this day, but it was weird for him when we first met, because we would, just be living our lives, and he'd ask something or something would come up and I would stop. I'd be like, I'm awesome. Or because I know everything. Or I don't even know what some of the other ones that I use often, because I'm on the spot right now. But it got to the point probably like a few months in where he was kind of like, girl, ego check lately. Like, you need to calm down, girl, because you're a little too much. But it was because I knew that I have to continuously remind myself that I do know stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because we spend so much time I shouldn't say we, sometimes I spend so much time being critical. And if there's not a balance of this thing that we do automatically, which is be critical with each other, with a reminder that we are awesome, if it's not a constant ebb and flow to combat this critical mind that we have a lot of times, or this negative mind that we have, then it can easily get out of whack, and you can easily fall down this hole of feeling sorry for yourself and back into victimhood. So, and I still do it to this day, and it doesn't bother him anymore. But I remember when we first started dating, he was like, girl, calm down. Like, yeah, you're awesome. But I had to tell him, like, I have to do this because I came from such a horrible, beginning of my adulthood, of just this horribleness that was said to me on a constant basis.
Yeah.
The only way to pull myself out of that was to continuously tell myself what I actually am, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And good for you, because, nobody teaches us that when we have negative thoughts, that we should complement it with positive ones.
Yeah.
It's the yin and yang. We need to find a balance. And especially when you were in a previous relationship that was, negative and whatnot, to then be in a different relationships, you want that positivity to balance out all the negative you've already experienced. And even in the new relationship I'm in, this gentleman is constantly like, yeah, I'm great. He has confidence, so much confidence, and it's so appealing and inspiring.
Yeah.
And it would be very easy for somebody to say, oh, well, check your ego, dude.
Yeah.
But it's not ego. It's
Yeah.
belief in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so rare in our society as a whole that when some people see it, they're like, whoa, that's too much.
Yeah.
But really, if we just took a moment and realized, wow, look at how cool that is. Look at how great it is. That person believes in themselves. So every time you say, I'm awesome, people need to listen, and they need to look themselves in the mirror and go, well, I'm pretty awesome too.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, if you just think about it also, as far as which you mentioned this earlier about being your I don't know exactly how you said it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but something to the effect of being your own best friend, like being there for yourself and supporting yourself. But you're with yourself all the time. So it's like, imagine if you were with your spouse or with a good friend and they never, ever, ever one time complimented you, and how kind of weird that would be if your new partner never said that you were beautiful or awesome or fantastic or an amazing woman. It would be weird to spend so much time with somebody and they never ever compliment you. So we are our own best friend. So you have to do that. You have to do that to the people that are closest to you, and you are the person who is closest to you. So you have to say it to yourself. It's like, it would be so strange to not.
Exactly. And on that point, if you don't say it to yourself, maybe you don't believe it. And are you going to believe it when somebody else says it to you?
Good point.
If your spouse says, "Hey, good morning, beautiful," and you're like, "Oh, no, I'm not. I'm ugly. Oh, my hair is here. I haven't done this. I haven't done that." Well, then they won't say it again because they didn't like the negative response you gave them.
Yeah.
But if you believe that even if your hair is all out of whack, you got bedhead going on, and you know, yeah, I'm beautiful inside and out, and they say that, it's going to be, "Oh, you're the best. Thanks so much."
Yes. Yes, absolutely. What would be some advice you would give to females who are struggling in this arena as far as self-love or victimhood? What would be a couple of sentences of some goodness that you could share with them?
The first thing I would say is you're not alone. It feels lonely, it feels scary, and it can feel daunting. Like you've got this massive mountain in front of you, and how the heck am I going to get past it? And so the first thing to do is realize you're not alone. And then the second thing to do is figure out what's hurting the most, mind or body. And if it's body, go to the specialist, go to the doctors, get second, third, eighth opinions. I don't care how many it takes, but don't stop till you feel physically healthy. If it's mind that's in the way, or not in the way, but if it's mind that's struggling, to reach out to people in your life or new people like a life coach, somebody who can give you a different perspective, and or somebody who's already been through it themselves. And there's lots of forums that I learned about after my hysterectomy, where there's a place called Hyster Sisters, and it's all women who've had hysterectomies sharing their experiences. Look for places where people are going through similar experiences and lean on their experiences, learn from their experiences, and know that you're not alone. And community in even our misery is enough to help pick us up one step at a time.
Yeah.
And the third thing, and this might be a little shameless plug to my most favorite sport in the world, try rock climbing, because it changed my life, that sport. It's such a great way to exercise and have fun without feeling like it's a workout. But you also get to surround yourself with really fun, supportive people. When you rock climb, it's just you versus the wall. There's no teams or pressure. And I found that for me, it was also very meditative, because if I didn't focus on the climb and what I was doing, I was going to fall. Nobody wants to fall. So I got to turn off all the other stresses and to-do lists and all the other things buzzing around in my mind, taking up space. And I just focused on the rock climb. And I would leave a gym session or a rock climbing session feeling like all the weight is away from the world. And so I think those three things would be what I would suggest.
I love it. My fiance would love that answer, because he did rock climbing for a few years and he talks about it all the time. So funny, whenever we go to watch Netflix or something, depending on who picks. If I pick, we're watching something to do with murder. And if he picks, we're usually watching something to do with climbing stuff. So awesome. You can always kind of tell who has control of the remote, depending on what's on TV.
You know what? I love that, though, because there is a fantastic film on Netflix called The Dawn Wall. And it's the story of one climber, Tommy Caldwell. And he also has a book called Push, which I read as well. And it's very interesting as a solo business owner. I actually recommend it to my entrepreneur friends and business owner friends, even if they're not a rock climber, because the drive and the perseverance and belief in yourself that Tommy needed to have in order to try to achieve the climb that he was aiming for is very inspiring and incredibly relatable to business owners.
Is this like a guy that would do the free climbing?
He doesn't free solo. He does use so free climbing, it's kind of tricky. Free soloing is where you don't use any safety equipment. And there was a very popular movie called Free Solo, won an Oscar a few years ago. Tommy Caldwell free climbs, which means he is using safety equipment, but he's completing the route without any aid. So he's not being pulled up. He's doing it with his own body weight and strength. But he does climb safely with equipment. And it's a fantastic film, The Dawn Wall, to speak about the sport of climbing, but then also perseverance and dedication. And found it very inspiring for business owners and anyone.
Awesome. I'll have to give that recommendation. I love that. I want to take a moment really fast to acknowledge those that are watching live. Thank you so much for being here, hanging out with us. Thank you for all the awesome comments that are coming through. If you're watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know where you are watching us at and we can send you some love. But I want to ask Bonnie, you've talked a little bit about what you do for work, but I would love for you to give us some more information. What do you do? Where can people find you?
Sure. Thank you. So what I do, I'm a business visibility photographer. And what that means is I help business owners exist and stand out and have a strong digital first impression online when someone Google searches for a service or product such as theirs. We no longer have the yellow pages available. So when somebody's looking for a chiropractor or a lawyer or a pizza shop near me, it's going straight into Google. And so as a business owner, if you don't have photographs showing your potential customer exactly what they're looking for, we'll talk about pizza maybe, that might make you hungry. But, if we don't see that puffy crust and glistening cheese, we're going to go to the restaurants we know, the Domino's, the Pizza Huts, and so on, because we know what we're going to get there. We've seen it before. But if we land on the mom and pop pizza shop and we see the glistening cheese and the puffy crust, we're going to say, oh, that looks delicious. I'm going there. So business owners need to exist visually online, and the imagery that they use has to be planned to show the potential customer exactly what they're looking for. And there's so many people who will just use, their cell phone, take a picture, it'll be blurry, maybe a little bit dark, and somebody's going to go, oh, well, that pizza shop looks a little scary. I'm not going there. Yeah. So I do a lot of educating and working with business owners on their visual digital strategy. Are your pictures repelling your potential customers because they're blurry and dark and not telling your story properly? Or are they impressing your potential customer and they're saying, wow, that pizza looks amazing. I'm calling them right now, hungrier than I thought I was. So I work with business owners on the image strategy. And then if they don't already have a photographer local to them that they like to work with, I'm happy to take the pictures as well and help them have this custom image catalog of pictures that they can pull from that are stock images of their business. Specifically, they can pull from them for marketing materials for the next 6 months, email newsletters, use on their website, use on Google Maps, anywhere that they exist digitally, and have a cohesive and strong digital first impression.
I love that. Absolutely. So cool. Where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me at bonniedickson.com. That's Dickson, Dickson. There's a little bubble above me as well. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram, but yeah, the website is probably the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm always happy to, like life coaches, have a consultation, share nuggets of information, because I believe that education is very important. And as business owners and just people navigating through life, school should never stop. We should always just keep learning in our daily life. So I'm always happy to share tips.
Fantastic. Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because as a photographer, I love photographing textures and capturing how light works, and photographing people and the places and businesses where they are, all the textures within the rooms is a really fun challenge. And the fuel behind that is that I'm helping business owners achieve their dream, because if they exist and people can see them, then they can experience them. And I think that my life, I'm always in search of experiences, and to the point where I even call my birthdays experience points. I don't call them birthdays anymore. We're in this gigantic board game of life. And as I move ahead each square, I gain more and more experiences. So I want people to be able to experience these unique businesses and help these business owners achieve the dreams that they're set out to do.
Beautiful. What are some big dreams that you have for your business?
That's a good question. I think that I would like to help a lot of small businesses just really realize their dreams. And I would like to do more of that through strategy and the image visibility, and really helping them understand how easy and quick it is to have a strong first impression online. And just reach more people.
Yeah. I like that you're saying that, recognize their own dreams, because I think a lot of times, being a coach, a lot of the people that I help are small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they forget like their original dream. They get so wrapped up in the calls and the website and the money and the go that they forget to like sit back and revisualize what they're even doing or why they're even doing it.
Yes, exactly.
So I love that.
And when you work with a professional photographer such as me, and we go through the strategy together, I have to get that business owner to revisit their why, right? What is their story? What is the thing that sets you apart from the other life coaches or from the other chiropractors? What is that special, unique thing about you that I can show visually in 3 to 7 seconds? So it captures someone's attention, and it pulls them out of that day-to-day grind of emails and appointments and this and that and bills and blah, 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 blah. And they have to take a step back and remember, oh yeah, I got into this because I want to make delicious pizza with my grandmother's recipe. Or I got into this because I want to help coach people. It's remembering their why and then photographing it.
Fantastic. I could totally see that. Well, I thank you so much for being here. This was phenomenal. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I would just love to thank you in return. I love what you do by helping people tell their stories. I think that education and experience is so important, as I mentioned before. And thank you for being a facilitator of that and giving people an option and a platform to be able to share their stories and experiences. And I think you're amazing. And you asked incredible questions. You really made me think. So apologies for the silent things where I'm like, let me think about that. But fantastic questions. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for taking some time. For those of you watching live or on the replay, if you resonated with all the goodness that Bonnie shared today, make sure you reach out to her. LinkedIn, Insta, right? Or BonnieDickson.com. Her link should be in the description, and you can also screenshot to save that on your phone or your computer, wherever you're listening. We love to connect people here on this platform, and in order to continue to make sure that we all rise together. Thank you so much for joining us here at Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, be sure to reach out to me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always,